Good morning or good afternoon. My name is Dan Carter. I'm the Business Development Director for Wood for our Specialist Engineering Consultancy Group. That covers all of our front-end consultancy capability across the oil and gas value chain and moving across other industrial sectors, with a particular view at the moment on developing our decarbonisation capability. So today I want to talk to you about SCORE, our process for providing our clients with the roadmap to achieve their decarbonisation targets. So I'll talk a little bit about the process we employ, but also how some of our digital tools can be used to support SCORE as we run through our clients' decarbonisation journey. So first of all, what are the drivers of decarbonisation? Obviously, we've got national emissions targets. A lot of countries have signed up to the Paris Climate Change Agreement, looking to introduce things like either incentives to reduce carbon emissions or taxes to incentivize organizations to remove or abate those carbon emissions. Operational efficiency and optimization has a big part to play, making sure that the existing assets produce only the CO2 that they have to in order to gain that license to operate. And obviously the investment proposition around decarbonisation is very difficult to fathom at the moment, depending on geography, policy regime that's in place, and the opportunities that may be appropriate for any particular asset to adopt. So within Wood, we've got a long history of experience leading clients through change, whether that's through changes in the offshore market, changes in sulfur specs for fuels. We can use our ingenuity and solutions to help you realise the decarbonisation challenge in a cost-effective manner. Obviously, we need to understand the opportunities. The opportunities are many, and they may be appropriate in certain situations and not at all appropriate in others. We can look at integrating renewable energy sources, such as solar and wind, optimising process and energy efficiency, making the most of asset housekeeping, so detecting, repairing leaks, potentially substituting feedstock for bio or less carbon intensive alternatives. Carbon capture is obviously a big part of the decarbonisation journey in a lot of cases, particularly in the power sector. We also look at offsetting emissions and balancing product and feedstock portfolios across a range of assets for a particular organisation or geography. So what's our approach to decarbonisation? Well, it's really multifaceted. So around consulting, it's obviously important to look at scoping, so benchmarking, determining asset carbon emissions against scope 1, 2 and 3 definitions across the asset boundary, how those are accounted and reported, looking at the investment strategy that's in place and then potential offsetting solutions. In the technology space, we can look at data acquisition systems, emissions and greenhouse gas monitoring software, but making that as automated as possible, providing real-time dashboards to be able to access data immediately. And then moving through to engineering, so designing, building the solutions that we've developed, optimizing those operations and looking at potential modifications for existing assets as well. Our climate resilience and sustainability services really fall into these 4 main categories. So first of all, climate risk, adaptation and resilience. So working with our customers to identify their greenhouse gas emissions and look at technical solutions and bespoke software applications for supporting climate change adaptation and resilience. Then there's energy transition and decarbonisation. So delivering those core sustainability services, including ongoing strategy development, environmental compliance and reporting, and supporting decarbonisation strategies. We then have environmental governance, policy and economics. So understanding how the policies that are emerging within your geography could impact on the development, assessment and implementation of decarbonisation for your particular assets in your particular organisation. And then finally, looking at the circular economy and sustainable resource management. So providing direct support to businesses, governments to help develop those policies and develop resource management plans for our clients. And obviously the biggest thing that we have here at the moment is single-use plastics and how that problem can be managed moving forward, which is very much in the public domain. So whatever your decarbonisation journey, whatever the problem you're facing, There are lots of challenges and there are lots of potential solutions. So it's really important to apply a structured process to help you map out how to achieve your decarbonisation goals in the most cost-efficient and sustainable manner. So within Wood, we've developed a structured and dynamic process that brings together the breadth of our advisory expertise, all the way from early phase policy, benchmarking and market advisory services, through techno-economic screening of potential decarbonisation opportunities, right into project delivery and operations optimisation. And we really split it around those three phases. So early on during the advise phase, helping clients navigate the decarbonisation landscape, understanding the client's objectives, applying our knowledge to determine an appropriate route to benchmarking and target setting. And the assess phase, looking at that structured process to screen options that have the highest impact on decarbonisation and road mapping those solutions for efficient implementation, and then through project delivery. So our roadmap looks a little bit like this, and we've called it Decarbonisation Score. So we've talked about some elements of this, but I'll run through the roadmap from left to right. So starting off by, what are the objectives? What are we trying to achieve? In order to build that up, we obviously need to understand the baseline carbon or greenhouse gas emissions particular asset. So baseline audits and defining emissions across scope 1, 2 or 3 boundaries. There's market analysis. So let's say in the power sector, decarbonisation may simply be about decarbonising the power input from that particular power station. So looking at carbon capture and storage and other options to abate carbon emissions. However, in other sectors such as refining, we're not just looking at the decarbonisation of the asset itself, but also the fact that the markets that asset are operating in are changing as well. So for a refinery, it might be looking at alternative transport fuel options to meet the future trends towards lower carbon transport fuels. Use all of that data along with policy, corporate strategy to define target setting, whether that's to be net zero by 2050, specify a certain percentage reduction over a 5, 10, 15-year horizon. So we then move through to the assess phase, and we can look at a variety of options around these core facets of our score model. So first of all, substitution. So substitution of electricity sources for renewables as an example, substitution of feedstocks for lower carbon or bio alternatives. We can look at carbon capture, sequestration and potential use. We can look at offsetting emissions, either across a client's asset portfolio, for example, offsetting climate emissions by looking at afforestation in other areas, or across a product portfolio. So really determining whether investment in one, multiple assets, multiple products has a significant impact that can pay off across the entire portfolio. And lastly, reducing, so housekeeping, reducing energy efficiency, maximising the efficiency of operation to reduce the amount of carbon that's emitted on a day-to-day basis. And it's this area that's likely to have immediate financial benefit for any particular asset in terms of the payoff for those projects and the ability to add to our customers' bottom line. We carry out technical economic screening assessment of all of those options, okay, cost estimates, economic and financial analysis. We're also looking at some softer drivers that we may have identified during our advisory phase services that we can bring to bear to make sure that we come up with a roadmap that's appropriate for meeting a client's decarbonisation objectives. And there may well be more than one route of project opportunities to get from the current data point to meet the roadmap. So we look to screen them in a holistic manner and select the right opportunities moving forward. Finally, once we've got that roadmap defined, we then move into the design and implementation phase, but also monitoring. It's really important to monitor carbon or other greenhouse gas emissions as we go through this whole process to make sure that gains are benchmarked, understood, and maintained, especially if those gains come from improvements in energy or operational efficiency. So, data quality is key to understanding all of this process. It's really important to understand what our carbon emissions are in the current time frame, as well as understand how we're going to meet them in the future. So it's not just for investment planning, but shareholders, stakeholders, investors are demanding transparency on both current performance and progress made in reduction strategies as part of annual sustainability reports, corporate reports, or other media. It's also important to make sure that we meet the demands of regulators. So as regulators implement new regulations and markets for offsetting and trading emerge, it's really key that both the quality of data and its auditability transparent and can be understood by multiple stakeholders. So to this end, we have developed a platform that we call Envision. So this combines a software platform with our consultancy offering in the score model we just talked through. So Envision can provide real-time insights into emissions. It can standardize diverse types of data to provide a clear, auditable, and accurate view of a particular asset, particular organization, or even geographical areas such as a city. So from the operations side, Envision manages that carbon and emissions data, bringing it in from potentially multiple sources, consolidating and reporting that data in a consistent manner, allowing it to be measured against KPIs. From a governance perspective, Envision collates emissions data across a portfolio of assets. We can track those with a real-time footprint, and the open structure allows you to customize that to add scope 1, 2, 3 emissions and a multitude of different emission sources. It also provides strategic insight, so access to the quality, high-frequency data in combination with other external data sources will allow an organization to set those strategic, realistic goals, define a roadmap, and as we said before, track and monitor progress against that benchmark. So here's an example for a particular petrochemicals customer. We do provide real-time management of emissions reporting and optimization. So really, in this particular scenario, Envision was developed to provide compliance with environmental reporting. So integrating information from a number of data sources, assessing the performance of those assets and reporting it back to the regulators across various geographies. This has been installed on over 200 sites globally. We have some benchmarks that look at Envision reducing the manual tasks associated with data collation and reporting by about 80%. It's clearly auditable and can notify an operator of an issue over 10 times faster than other less automated practices. So thank you for your time and for listening to my presentation. Please feel free to get in touch if there are any further questions around our consultancy offering or the tools that we use to support that. Thank you very much.